The first thing I noticed was my heartbeat. It wasn't racing, not yet, but it felt louder. Like my chest had been turned into a hollow room and every thump echoed back at me. I stood in my bathroom, toothbrush frozen halfway to my mouth, staring at the small orange bottle on the sink. My name was on the label. The pills inside were not meant for me. I didn't know that yet. Not fully. Not in the way that would change everything. All I knew was that something felt off, and that the face staring back at me from the mirror already looked different, even before I understood why. My skin seemed clearer. Not dramatically, not movie magic obvious. Just softer. Like the harsh edges had been lightly sanded down overnight. My eyes looked wider somehow, more awake. I leaned closer, squinting, tilting my head. Did I sleep? I muttered. Or did I wake up as someone else? I laughed at myself, a short, nervous sound. I was being ridiculous. Stress does things to your perception. Lighting matters. Mirrors lie. But as I brushed my teeth, my chest tightened, not in pain, but in awareness. A strange sensitivity bloomed there, subtle but undeniable, like my body was quietly clearing its throat to get my attention. Something had already begun. And I had no idea that the pills I'd been taking for 3 weeks, 3 completely ordinary weeks, were rewriting me from the inside out. It started innocently. Boring, even. A routine doctor's visit. A rushed clinic. A distracted nurse. I was prescribed medication for what I was told was a minor hormonal imbalance. Nothing serious, nothing to worry about. Just take one a day, she said, already halfway out the door. You might feel a little different at first. Different. I did feel different. At work, I found myself drifting. Catching my reflection in dark computer screens and lingering a second too long. My emotions sat closer to the surface, like they were waiting for permission to spill over. A sad song on the radio made my throat tighten. A compliment from a coworker lingered in my chest long after it should have faded. Everything okay? My friend Alex asked one afternoon, glancing at me over his coffee. You've been quiet. I'm fine, I said automatically. Then, after a beat, just tired. It wasn't a lie. But it wasn't the truth either. People started looking at me differently. Or maybe I just started noticing. Did you lose weight? Someone asked. You look refreshed, another said, hesitating on the word like they weren't sure it was the right one. At home, my clothes felt wrong. Not uncomfortable, just misaligned. Shirts hung differently. Waistbands rested in places that made me oddly aware of my hips. I stood in front of my closet one night, tugging fabric this way and that, frustration bubbling up without a clear target. Get it together, I told myself. You're overthinking. But then came the morning I woke up and my chest hurt. Not sharp pain. Tenderness. Sensitivity. I pressed lightly and sucked in a breath. What the? Panic flickered, quick and hot. That was when I picked up the pill bottle again and actually read it. Really read it. The medication name meant nothing to me. But the smaller print, the part I'd ignored because I trusted the system, made my stomach drop. Estradiol. I stared at the word until it blurred. No, I whispered. No, no, no. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone, fingers clumsy as I searched. The results loaded slowly, cruelly. Hormone therapy. Feminizing effects. Breast development. Fat redistribution. Emotional changes. The room felt too small. Too bright. I slid down the bathroom wall until I was sitting on the floor, pill bottle still clutched in my hand. They gave me girl pills, I breathed. They gave me. The sentence wouldn't finish. Fear surged first. Hot, choking, overwhelming. What was happening to my body? How far had it already gone? Could I undo this? Then something else crept in behind the fear. Curiosity. Quiet. Treacherous. Thrilling. Because even as my mind screamed this is wrong, my body whispered something very different. The clinic apologized. Profusely. Paperwork was shuffled. Explanations were offered. I was told to stop immediately. That most effects were temporary. That everything would return to baseline. Baseline. The word echoed in my head as I walked home, prescription correction folded uselessly in my pocket. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt loss. At home, I stood in front of the mirror again. Really looked this time. Traced the subtle curve forming beneath my chest. Not dramatic. Not obvious to anyone else. But to me, it was unmistakable. My face, softer. My lips, fuller? Had they always been that pink? I pressed my palms to the glass, heart racing. This wasn't supposed to happen. And yet, that night, I didn't throw the pills away. I told myself it was shock. That I needed time. That I wouldn't take another one. But when morning came, and the bottle sat there, quiet and unassuming, my hand hovered. I just want to understand, I whispered. The pill dissolved on my tongue like a secret. I became careful. At work, I monitored myself constantly. Lowered my voice without realizing it, then caught myself and panicked. Sat differently. Moved differently. Or maybe I always had, and I was only now noticing. In meetings, I felt exposed, like everyone could see what was happening beneath my clothes, beneath my skin. One afternoon, my manager pulled me aside. "Is everything okay?" she asked gently. "You seem emotional lately." I laughed too quickly. "Just stressed." She nodded, but her eyes lingered. At family dinner that weekend, my sister squinted at me across the table. "Have you done something different?" she asked. "Your skin looks amazing." "It's annoying." Everyone laughed. I forced a smile, heat crawling up my neck. In the bathroom later, I locked the door and stared at myself, pulse thudding. My chest pressed faintly against the fabric of my shirt. I cupped it experimentally, breath hitching at the sensation, electric, forbidden, exhilarating. "What are you doing?" I hissed at my reflection. But my reflection didn't look ashamed. It looked curious. The exploration started small. I bought a moisturizer I'd always walked past. Then a different shampoo, floral, soft. I told myself it was just curiosity. Self-care. Anyone could do this. Late at night, alone, I stood in front of the mirror and practiced smiling. Tilting my head. Letting my wrists relax when I spoke aloud, just to see how it felt. It felt natural. One evening, heart pounding, I opened a browser tab I'd never let myself open before. Clothing. Women's clothing. "I'm just looking," I murmured, like someone might overhear. The first package arrived 2 days later. I waited until night, blinds drawn, lights dim. My hands shook as I pulled out a simple top, soft fabric, gentle curve at the chest. When I slipped it on, something in my chest clicked. The fabric draped over me like it knew where it was supposed to rest. My waist looked different. My shoulders less harsh. I turned sideways. Then fully around. "Oh," I breathed. The mirror didn't argue. Makeup came next. Awkward. Messy. Mascara smudged. Lip gloss too shiny. I laughed at myself, wiping it off, trying again. Each attempt felt like learning a language my body already understood. My voice softened without effort. My posture changed. I stopped forcing anything and let myself be. And the strangest part? I wasn't pretending. The first time I went outside like that, my heart nearly exploded. Nothing dramatic. No dress. No heels. Just jeans, the soft top, a light jacket. Hair brushed forward instead of back. I told myself I could still pass as ambiguous. At the corner store, the cashier glanced up and smiled. "Hey," she said. "What can I get you, miss?" She paused, frowned slightly, then recovered. "Sorry. What can I get you?" The word hit me like lightning. "Miss." I nodded quickly, voice barely above a whisper as I paid. My hands trembled as I walked out, lungs burning like I'd just run a mile. I leaned against the wall outside and laughed, half hysterical, half euphoric. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay." That night, I took the pill without hesitation. The confrontation was inevitable. Alex noticed first. "You're changing," he said one evening, not accusing, just observant. "Like, really changing." My heart hammered. "Is that bad?" He shrugged. "Not if you okay." I wasn't sure how to answer that. At work, rumors fluttered. Nothing concrete. Just looks. Whispers. A careful distance that hadn't been there before. Then HR called. Sitting in that neutral room, hands folded in my lap, I felt like I was balancing on the edge of 2 lives. We want to make sure you feel supported, the representative said. But we've noticed changes. I swallowed. This is who I'm becoming, I said slowly, the words terrifying and liberating all at once. I didn't plan it. But I don't want to stop. Silence stretched. Then she nodded. Okay, she said. Then let's talk about how we move forward. When I left the building, the sky looked brighter. Sharper. Real. I told my family next. There were tears. Confusion. Questions I didn't have answers to yet. I don't know where this ends, I admitted. I just know I can't go back to not knowing. My sister hugged me tightly. Then don't, she whispered. That night, alone in my room, I stood fully dressed, makeup done, hair styled, body unmistakably changing. I looked at myself and finally said it out loud. This is me. The words settled into my bones. I don't call it an accident anymore. Yes, the pills were a mistake. A system failure. A medical error. But what they revealed. That was always there. They didn't change my soul. They gave it permission. And if you're watching this, feeling that tug in your chest, that quiet, insistent whisper, know this. Sometimes your life doesn't change because you choose it. Sometimes it changes because it refuses to let you keep pretending. And when that happens, you don't lose yourself. You finally, courageously, begin. I thought part one was the shock. I was wrong. The real shock came after, when the clinic told me I could stop, when everyone around me expected relief, and when my body and heart quietly answered with the same terrifying truth. I don't want to. That realization didn't arrive all at once. It seeped in slowly, through ordinary moments that suddenly felt charged with meaning. Like the morning I woke up and instinctively reached for a soft bra I'd bought just in case, even though I could have gone without it. Or the way my reflection no longer startled me, but checked in with me, like we were sharing a private understanding. I was no longer waiting for things to go back to normal. I was waiting to see how far this could go. The days after I admitted that to myself were the hardest. Not because anything dramatic happened, but because nothing did. Life kept going. I still had deadlines. Emails. Dishes in the sink. But underneath it all, my body continued its quiet, undeniable evolution. My chest felt heavier, more present. My hips softened. My face, God, my face, looked like it belonged to someone I'd secretly admired from afar my entire life. At work, I switched to looser tops without making a big announcement. I wore light makeup, concealer, mascara, lip balm, and pretended it was just a new routine. Some people noticed. Some didn't. A few smiled like they knew something I hadn't said out loud yet. One afternoon, I overheard a coworker whisper, "She looks really confident lately." I pretended not to hear. But I replayed it all night. The emotional changes surprised me more than the physical ones. I cried at stupid things. Commercials. Old photos. A song that hit the wrong chord at the wrong time. But it wasn't overwhelming, it was clarifying. Like I'd been living with emotional earplugs in, and someone had finally taken them out. One evening, I sat on my bed surrounded by clothes, trying outfits not for secrecy, but for honesty. Who am I today? I asked myself out loud. The question didn't scare me anymore. I chose a simple dress. Nothing flashy. When I zipped it up and turned to the mirror, my breath caught, not from shock, but from recognition. There you are. I practiced walking. Standing. Existing. Not performing. Just being. And for the first time since all of this began, I didn't feel like I was borrowing something. I felt like I was returning to it. The first real test came with my family. We decided to meet for lunch. Neutral territory, public, safe. I didn't announce anything beforehand. I just showed up. When I walked into the restaurant, conversation stopped. My mom's eyes widened. My dad stared at his hands. My sister smiled softly, like she'd been waiting for this moment. "Hi," I said, voice steady. There was an awkward shuffle of chairs. Then my mom stood and hugged me, tight, trembling. "You look happy," she whispered, like she was afraid to say it too loudly. "I am," I replied. And meant it. We didn't solve everything that day. There were questions. Hesitations. Silence that stretched too long. But there was also laughter. Shared food. Familiar warmth. And when we parted, my dad squeezed my shoulder and said quietly, "I'm still learning. But I'm here." I cried in my car afterward, not from pain, but from relief. I went back to the clinic. Not to complain. To choose. Sitting across from the doctor, I laid it all out. The mistake. The changes. The fear. The certainty. "I know this didn't start the right way," I said. "But I don't want to stop." She listened. Really listened. Then she nodded. "Then let's do this the right way." Walking out with a correct prescription this time felt surreal. The same pills. Entirely different meaning. This time, they weren't an accident. They were consent. The world responded in unexpected ways. Some people drifted away quietly. Others leaned in. I found community online, voices that sounded like mine, stories that echoed my own. I wasn't alone. I never had been. One night, I went out with friends, really out. Dress. Makeup. Confidence stitched together from 100 small victories. At the bar, someone complimented my hair. Another asked my name and didn't hesitate when I told her. I danced. Not self-consciously. Not cautiously. I danced like my body finally knew what it was for. Later, alone in the bathroom, flushed and glowing, I looked at myself and laughed. "Wow," I whispered. "You're real." The hardest confrontation was the quiet one. The one with my past self. The version of me who never let themselves ask why certain fantasies lingered. Why certain clothes felt magnetic. Why being seen as one of the guys always felt like a role instead of a truth. I mourned them. But I didn't want to go back. Because this life, this skin, this softness, felt like breathing fresh air after years underground. I won't pretend it's perfect. There are still bad days. Dysphoria. Fear. Moments when the world feels sharp and unkind. But now, I face them as myself, not as someone hiding behind what's expected. And every morning, when I take my pill, I don't think about what it's doing to me. I think about what it gave me. Clarity. Courage. Choice. If you're watching this and wondering whether one mistake could really change everything, let me tell you something gently, honestly, from the other side. The pills didn't make me a woman. They showed me I already was becoming one. Sometimes life doesn't ask for permission. Sometimes it hands you the truth in a tiny bottle and waits to see if you're brave enough to swallow it. And if you are, you don't lose your life. You finally start living it.